The kind of person who'd steal your casserole dish and your whole dang cabin in the same week. Yeah, that happened, and I swear you could hear a pin drop in that courtroom after she disappeared behind those double doors, still ranting about energy rights like she was casting a spell on the whole legal system. But let me tell you, standing there on the courthouse steps after it was all over, breathing in that clean mountain air again, finally able to laugh without feeling like I was about to get served another fake cease and desist, I felt this weird mix of satisfaction and disbelief. I mean, this all started with a casserole dish, right? One beef, surprise, one supposed abandoned cabin, and suddenly I'm starring in the world's most ridiculous episode of Law and Order HOA Unit. You know what really got me, though? After all her posturing, all her sustainable occupancy and aura balancing nonsense, she was just another bully with a clipboard thinking the rules didn't apply to her as long as she used enough big words. I've dealt with a lot in 30 years as a firefighter, pulled folks out of burning buildings, seen what happens when you ignore warnings, but I never thought I'd have to fight a war over my own front porch swing. And if you're picturing this story as just a comedy of errors, well, sure, I got a few laughs out of it eventually, but there were moments that made my blood boil too. Like the day I walked back into my cabin after the dust settled and really looked around for the first time. Every trace of my own life, every photo, every fishing trophy gone or tossed out, replaced by Pinterest signs and weird spiritual alignment gadgets that beeped whenever you opened the fridge. There was even one of those salt lamps shaped like a dragon's egg sitting where my late wife's quilt rack used to be. I just stood there listening to the wind rattle the windows and felt like a guest in my own story. But you know, that's where the twist came in. The thing I never saw coming, not in a million years. See, after the trial, people started coming up to me, neighbors who'd never spoken to me before, folks from the other side of the ridge who'd only ever waved from their driveways. Turns out Marcia had made a career out of terrorizing the whole mountain HOA or not. Nobody was safe from her brand of moral aesthetic enforcement. Tom, the neighbor who first invited me to that fateful potluck, showed up on my porch with a real casserole chicken this time, thank God, and a signed card from half the neighborhood. It read, "Welcome back, Randy. The ridge is finally peaceful again." Funny how trouble brings folks together. Next thing I knew, we were organizing a cleanup, hauling all that live, laugh, love garbage out to the curb, tracking down my missing trout mount. Turns out Marcia had tried to donate it to an anti-violence art project. Don't ask, even repainting my shutters just the way I like them, emotionally neutral and all. But the best part, the HOA itself held a special election for the first time in 10 years, and Marcia's spot on the board went to a woman named Angie, a retired school principal who believed in live and let live way more than live, laugh, love. First thing she did, she passed a motion clarifying that anything outside the official boundary line, even by an inch, was officially none of their business. I put up a little sign next to my driveway, "Welcome to Randy's Gnome Zone," just for laughs. Yeah, I know I couldn't resist. And Marcia. Well, last I heard, she's trying to start a consulting business from prison, writing a book called Energy Guardianship and the New American Dream. Can't make this stuff up. Maybe one day it'll show up on a judge's desk as Exhibit A in another wild courtroom drama, but that's somebody else's story. You know, people always talk about standing up for what's right, but they rarely tell you how weird, how exhausting, and honestly, how hilarious it gets in the middle of the fight. I learned that sometimes you have to fight for your peace, even if it means facing down folks who think property law is just a matter of strong vibes and bad PowerPoints. And sometimes the best victory isn't just getting your place back, it's seeing your neighbors rally behind you, laughing together over cold beer and hot casserole, swapping stories about the time your little mountain ridge almost got taken over by the Queen of Garden gnome bands. So I'll ask you this, that if you'd been in my boots, standing on that porch casserole dish in hand, hearing voices inside your own cabin, what would you have done? Ever tangled with a neighbor who thought they could rewrite the rules just because nobody stood up to them? Or maybe you were that neighbor once until you learned better. Either way, I'd love to hear it. Drop your stories down below. What's your wildest HOA run-in or your most bizarre property battle? Where do you draw the line between right and wrong when it's your own peace at stake? And hey, if you're still with me after all this, Do me a favor, hit that comment button. Share your take on what justice really looks like. Is it about law? Is it about community? Or is it just about standing up for yourself when it counts? You never know. Your story might be the next one that reminds someone they're not alone out there. Thanks for listening, and remember, always check that casserole dish before you eat. You just might find yourself in the middle of something a whole lot bigger than beef surprise.